Hey, welcome to Reestablishment. Bodie D'Andrea, your host on this journey. How are you today? Hopefully, you are in good shape and good spirits. Welcome to this particular episode. This is probably as close to a real crime drama episode as we will get, but we have a special guest today that I asked to be on this program. We met, I believe, by divine appointment and really kind of hit it off, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
So his name is Richard Bowen. He's here today. He's got a book he's written, but more than that, he has a story that you need to hear. Just when you think that your life is tough and you've got some bad stuff going, look around you and you'll find somebody worse than you. Richard was, when he was first born, I guess you had a good shot at life, but very quickly that all went away. And you were really from a very young age, I guess trying to fend for yourself or trying to carve out something because of lack of stability in the home. Take it from there.
Yeah, when I was younger, I guess for me there was a feeling of instability growing up. My mother, for whatever reason, I don't know what the reason was, but she left my older sister and me with my grandmother, and she got married and she moved out of the States. So I didn't have my mom. My dad wasn't a part of my life, so my grandmother pretty much raised me. But being I'm half black and half Hispanic, so I grew up on my Hispanic side of the family. So there was definitely feelings of not fitting in when I was growing up, just not understanding kind of where I fit in into the grand scheme of my family.
I read that one of the schools you went to, you were the only person of color.
Oh yeah.
Everybody else was white.
Yeah, there was
and
two.
Here you are with two other different cultures as your background, trying to fit in with an all-white school.
Absolutely, and it was difficult because I fought every single day. It was this was in the 80s, and there was a lot of racially motivated incidences that happened while I went to that school, which, looking back, it didn't negatively mold me or make me think any kind of way. I mean, my wife's white, you know what I mean? So I don't have any negative feelings about that. But yeah, I had a tough time growing up.
So interesting thing in reading your life, you and we don't want to publicize or make a big deal of this, but you became a really good bad guy. You were good at stealing cars. You were good at manipulating. You were good at lying. But you weren't that good that you didn't get caught.
Right.
But what was interesting is, having a law enforcement background, that I've run into a lot of people like you during my career. But one of the things I realized that you said that I don't hear that often is you weren't stealing cars to flip them or make money. And you weren't doing it really for the thrill of the steal. It was just something to do.
Yeah.
Like you really didn't have a purpose in doing it. It was just, and it wasn't really for kicks as much. It was just something you became good at, and it's just something that you did. Take it away.
Well, I absolutely was directionless when I was a kid. You know what I mean? I did a lot of stupid things for stupid reasons. I didn't have any reason. When I was younger, they thought that I was on drugs or something else because I was making a lot of really bad decisions. But I was just lost. I was just a lost child that I didn't know what to do with myself.
And the sad thing is, you actually were a pretty good athlete.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have had the right people around you, the right support system, your life would have been totally different in the beginning.
Absolutely.
You excelled at like 2 or 3 different sports, right?
Yeah, basketball, track, football. Yeah, I excelled in all sports. Still pretty athletic at 52 years old, if I don't mind myself.
But there was a time when you lost all that because of the other activities and the bad behavior.
Yeah, I actually was arrested at basketball practice when I was in the 10th grade, and that was the last time that I ever went to formalized school. So yeah, I mean, that was pretty profound to be arrested at basketball practice, because that should have been my future, or I thought that should have been my future, playing sports.
So who during this time in your life, you're out, I'm guessing most of the hours of the night,
Yeah.
and you're out just wandering. Nothing good is coming out of this situation. Were you more of a leader, a follower, or are you just drifting on your own?
I was definitely a leader. I always was a leader of the delinquents that I hung around with.
Yeah.
But I guess hindsight being 2020, I was pretty much a follower too, because I fell into a lot of things that not necessarily were even part of my character makeup. You know what I mean? Just being involved in criminal activity and some of the things that are involved with being a gang member. I mean, those, I guess in retrospect, I was a follower, you know.
Were you searching at this time?
I was absolutely searching.
You were searching,
Always
but
searching.
never had a biblical background,
No.
or even your grandmother did what she could, but it was limited as I understand it.
Well, and it was absolutely limited. When I was growing up, we used to, being half Hispanic, we would go to Our Lady of Guadalupe Church, which was a Catholic church, but we would go to the Spanish Mass. So for me, I don't speak Spanish, so it was difficult for me to even have a connection with Jesus Christ because I didn't understand what was even going on during the services.
Right.
Thank God my grandmother took me to church, or had the thought to at least try to instill that in us. But I mean, there was no connection. There was no connection with me or God when I was growing up. And I know now, looking back, that that's what I was searching for, through the drugs and the alcohol and doing all the things that I was doing negatively. I was trying to find something that would fill my soul. And it was
Did you
Christ.
know that that's what was it, a conscious decision that you were trying to fill a void, or was it just in my doing whatever I'm doing, I'm kind of reaching out thing? Or were you really saying, there's got to be more to this?
It was not conscious.
It was just
Bodie.
aimless?
I was aimless. I was directionless. I didn't know. I always have said that I felt like I was just floating. I felt like I was just waiting to die, I guess. I mean,
Any
there
of your
was no
friends,
direction.
did you ever communicate with them that feeling, or did you get that they were in the same boat?
Oh, a lot of my friends were in the same situation. I mean, I literally slept on couches when I was a kid, you know. So, and I mean, I was committing crimes with my buddies,
Right.
with my friends. So yeah, they were absolutely in the same situation. And I think that a lot of it, I know a lot of it has to do with none of us had dads. I mean, we didn't have
Okay.
fathers in the household, you know. And as good of a job as my mother or a mother could do, I mean, without a father in the household, it's extremely difficult to raise men.
So well, and I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
So you are a very smart man. You have done very well. But there was a point in time where you weren't doing so good because you got popped like 2 or 3 times
Oh yeah.
with arrest. And you would think after the first 1 or 2, you'd have learned your lesson.
Yeah.
But what happened was that continually, it builds on itself. And so each time you got arrested, it was for more serious things. And finally, you got hit with the feds, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
So tell us about that.
So that was my second time going to prison. My first time I was 16 years old and I was adjudicated as an adult because of the amount of cars that we were stealing, and for no reason. Again, I mean, it wasn't for financial gain or anything else. It was just to steal them. So they sent me to prison when I was 16 years old, to adult prison. I did 6.5 years in adult prison for a nonviolent crime. And like you said, you would think I would get out of that situation and not want to get in trouble anymore. And I did. That's kind of true. But I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know God. So even when I came home that time, I got a job and I was on the straight track. But alcohol was very easily added to my life, and then drugs pretty quickly after that, because I still was directionless.
There
you know
wasn't
what I mean?
a standard.
There was no standard.
So I want everybody that's watching this podcast to understand, at 23 years of age, he had already been incarcerated for 8 years.
Yes.
So 1/3 of his life was already spent behind bars. Rehabilitation? Was there anything in there that gave you hope for the future? Was there anything that said, yes, when I get out this time, I think this will hold?
There wasn't any hope of that until after I got out. And I remember very clearly, I was sitting in my apartment and I was watching TV and I was crying because I didn't have anything. I didn't have any money, any clothes. I was in Phoenix, Arizona. I didn't know anybody in Phoenix. And
But you were on probation at
I was
that
on
time.
probation. They released me from prison, kicked me out of the state of Colorado, gave me 3 days to get out of the state of Colorado, and I went to Phoenix, Arizona, and
Which was a blessing.
which was an
Because you had
absolute
never
blessing.
committed a crime in Arizona.
Never. And
So for them, you were considered a low risk.
Absolutely. And I remember very clearly, I was sitting in a Wendy's, and 2 police officers walk in, and I immediately get my stuff, and I'm getting ready to stand up and walk out, and one of them kind of just like waved at me, and I looked around, and I was like, they don't know who I am.
Yeah.
You know?
So sit back down.
Right. So sit back down. And that kind of changed my outlook on, I don't have to be a criminal. You know, I can recreate myself pretty much. And through God's grace, I got a job working for Bally Total Fitness, selling gym memberships. And it was an avenue that I didn't have to go back to doing crime. But again, I didn't have a standard. I didn't have a playbook, you know what I mean,
Right.
for life. So I was just drifting. You figure I was 16 when I got locked up, got out when I was 23. I mean, and I'm on my own. I was an adult, you know, with a job and had to pay bills, and I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. So once I started finding a little bit of success in my job, I acted out in the wrong way instead, because I didn't know Jesus. I didn't know God.
Well,
I
you
just knew I didn't
definitely
want to get in
had-
trouble.
You were definitely industrious.
Yeah, right.
We know that.
Right.
And you weren't lazy.
Right.
And so when you find out that you actually do have skills, something started taking a hold. By this time, you fell in love, right?
Yes.
And you got married. She was the one that kind of tried to bring everything together for you. What was the big moment where things really started changing?
So in my life, for years and years and years, my wife prayed for me. And I used to get angry with her. I used to tell her, don't pray for me, pray for yourself. You know, didn't want her to read the Bible to my kids. And I don't really know why I was so anti-God or anti the Bible. But I always felt like it was a weakness if you needed God, or if you needed, I felt like it was a crutch. And I remember thinking to myself that I am weak, that I do need a crutch, that I do need Jesus. And I know that it was from the years and years and years of my wife praying for me and just showing me what a Christian is, just through her actions, not through her words, but her kindness and always being forgiving and her unconditional love. And I remember one time she told me that the Bible says that we're not warring against it. We're a person, it's physical. I mean, it's spiritual, you know, and when she realized that she was warring against evil spirits that were attacking me and that it wasn't me per se, I mean, that helped her stay in the fight. And thankfully, but when I realized that I couldn't do it on my own, that's when I asked Jesus to come into my life.
Yeah. And was it an immediate change?
No,
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. It was definitely, I had to walk through the fire. You figure it was years and years and years and years of me lying and cheating and being the person that I was. It took a while for me to, I mean, I still fight some things, you know, but yeah, it's definitely been a process. In 2018, I was baptized. And when I came out of the water, I literally was a new person. I felt like a new person, a new creation. And that's how I've been ever since.
That's phenomenal. You know, by looking at you, and when you and I first met a couple months ago doing a business deal, I would have never guessed your story.
Praise
And
God.
you just happened to say, I want to send you my book. I think you need to, that you would benefit from hearing my story. And I did. God really has done something in your life.
Yeah.
So it is possible to change. You know, here at Reestablishment, that is the goal. If we can get people to take a look at their life, wherever they're at, it's not for us to judge.
Sure.
It's for us to take an honest look. Where are we right now in our life? At this particular moment, where are we at and where are we headed? And if we can take that honest look, we can change and we can make something beautiful and better, no matter how bad the beginning was.
That's exactly right.
And you are a true testament of what God can do. And you had said something to me when we first met. I don't know if you remembered or not, but you said something to the effect of, I'm amazed at how bad I was and how good my kids have become.
Yeah.
So you have broken the cycle,
Thank God,
of the generations for your children.
Mhm.
And your children are nothing like you were. And so I think those that are listening and watching today need to know that wherever they came from, you can't help that part of it,
Mhm.
but it doesn't have to be that way. And you can break those bonds for the next generation, right?
Absolutely. If you're breathing, then that means that God's not done with you. You know,
Right.
and when we were talking earlier about how I was when I was 15 and 16 years old, I think about my 16-year-old son and just how he doesn't have to deal with some of the things that I dealt with. You know what I mean? And thank God that I'm in the situation that I'm in now. Because all my kids are saved. They're all of their names are written in the book of life, and they've all been baptized by their own choice, and they all have personal relationships with Jesus Christ, regardless of my relationship. You know what I mean? They have their own personal relationship, so it's good.
I am so glad that you were here today.
Thank you for letting me come.
Like I said, no matter where you've come from, whether it's you or a family member, and you've been struggling, or you're just drifting, like you said, aimlessly, maybe you don't feel like you have a purpose in your life. There is purpose, and you can find it. I want to encourage you. We're going to put up a website or an email address. He wrote a book called All the Way Up, because we can't go halfway, right?
Right.
It's got to be all the way up. Fantastic. It's an easy read. It's short chapters that make it easy. You don't have to read it all at once. Easy to understand. But what it does is it takes you through his life, and it shows you how you can go from one point to another and climb this thing we call life. And so, Richard, thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate you, appreciate what God's done in your life, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. I
Have a great
appreciate
day.
You too.
And we'll see you on the next Reestablishment.
Raise your hands up. Raise it up. Reestablishment. We've got it complete. Let's talk about it from A to
This
Z.
episode is brought to you by Soul Fit Retreats. Soul Fit Retreats are life-changing experiences for the mind, body, and spirit. Each retreat is a unique combination of faith, health, fitness, and fun. Join the welcoming community for a journey that will empower you, encourage you, and challenge you to become the best version of yourself. Visit soulfitretreats.com today.